everyone. I'm Diane Miller. I'm an attorney with National Health Freedom Coalition and National Health Freedom Action. And I'm here today to talk to you about health freedom laws for practitioners. Thank you, Julie Whitman Klein, for having this Trinity Health Freedom Expo today, and for all the work that it takes to make it from an in-person gathering to a virtual. And I hope that things go really well as people are sharing their information virtually. I'm honored to be here today, and I hope that you enjoy this presentation. I've put together some materials so that you can understand the practitioner safe harbor exemption laws that our organization has been working on to make sure that herbalists and homeopaths and Qigong practitioners and all of the practitioners that are not conventionally licensed under the state laws so that they can practice freely and help as many people as possible. So here we go. And today, the title of my presentation is Practitioner Safe Harbor Exemptions for Complementary and Alternative Healthcare Practitioners. So here we go. I always think that it is important to understand the fundamental right of all people to heal each other. And I was not aware that there were laws that would block someone from healing another person until I worked on a case of a farmer in Minnesota who was criminally charged and put in jail for healing former Congressman Berkeley Bedell from Lyme's disease he used the colostrum from the dairy cows of his farm to boost the immune system of his clients. And I had no idea that that was against the law to help another person. And since that time, I have become very passionate about protecting the freedom to heal each other, for practitioners to practice, and for people to be able to access whatever they can to heal themselves, even if it's not within a conventional format that is in the culture. So freedom to heal is my passion, and I hope it's yours. If you're at this expo, it's probably yours. I'm also an attorney, and so I have a deep passion for law. I am completely supportive of having a country that is founded on laws instead of a monarch or a group of people that is dominating. I know that the law itself is in jeopardy right now, given what's going on in our country and around the world, but I'm still hoping that the law and how we word the law will guide us as we evolve technologically and as we evolve as people. I want to have the law the voice of freedom, and that it should reflect our fundamental rights. In the United States, we have two different kinds of laws, well, many kinds of laws, but we have state laws and federal laws because of the structure of our country. And the state laws really are to protect the safety of the citizens of the state. It's police power, the governors and the Constitution of the state and the legislature of the state protect the safety of the people in that state. And the federal laws really are about the relationship between the states. So in the healing arts, you'll have the state laws regulating the practice of healing so that people are safe in the terms of practice of healing. And in the federal law, you'll have the federal laws reflect products, manufacturing, travel between states. And in this case, the federal law, the most important one that we hear about a lot is the dietary supplements and drug laws. So you have to ask a question in the most simplistic way I can put this would be to say, are you helping someone with a health problem? If you're under a state law, you want to know, are there laws in that state for are you helping someone with a health problem? And for the federal laws, they would ask you, are you selling and staying within what it means, what it says on the label. Are you selling something? Are you manufacturing something? Are you shipping things between states? So we'll start out with the state law practice laws. Are you helping someone with a health problem? And like I said, I did not know that there were laws that would block you from helping someone with a health problem. But I'll give you an example of what I first was introduced for helping someone with a health problem. Here's the state of Minnesota where I live, the practice of medicine defined, and it's one of the paragraphs in the practice of medicine statute. It says, if you're offering or undertake to prevent or to diagnose, correct, or treat in any manner or by any means, methods, devices, or instrumentalities, any disease, illness, pain, wound, fracture, infirmity, deformity, or defect of any person, if you're doing any of those things, you're practicing medicine. If you don't have a license as a medical doctor when you're practicing medicine, you are liable for a gross misdemeanor. So what does that mean? When we were, trying to defend this farmer, we realized that there was a few exceptions. There's actually a list of exemptions in the statutes and in most states. And in Minnesota, there's an exemption for this gross misdemeanor for people who heal by prayer. And in some states, like in Iowa, there's an exemption for people who give people the spring water from their farm. And in Massachusetts, there's an exemption for clairvoyance. And so you can imagine when an unfair thing happened, maybe the state passed a law to protect some people from this criminal charge. But these exemptions are very small, and I wanted everybody to be free. And so did my colleagues. So we worked to pass a law in Minnesota that would exempt all the unlicensed people from the practice of medicine. So here's what we passed. We passed a law that said everybody, acupuncture, anthroposophy, aromatherapy, energetic healing, Gerson therapy, herbalists, homeopaths, naturopaths, they're all exempt from the criminal charges. They put two stipulations on. One, they had to avoid prohibited conduct, such as puncturing the skin or giving out prescription drugs or doing surgery. They had a list of prohibited acts, and you couldn't call yourself a doctor. And then secondly, you had to give out a disclosure saying that you were not a licensed doctor. And then you were exempt from the criminal charges. So we call this a safe harbor exemption, practitioner exemption statute in Minnesota. After we passed this in 2001, many states asked us to help them, so we became very involved around the country, working to pass safe harbor laws with groups that would come and ask for our help. So I'm going to give you some examples of other states that have the similar definition of the practice of medicine. This is the state of Washington. They say offers or undertakes to diagnose, cure, advise, etc. But in theirs, they say a condition, physical or mental, real or imaginary, by any means or instrumentalities. So you can imagine how broad this is, that they could shut unlicensed practitioners down. And we have tracked about 3 or 4 cases in the state of Washington where people were criminally charged. In the state of Maine, they just passed, they are the most recent state that passed a safe harbor law. And they were up against this diagnosing, relieving in any degree. So they had a very broad statute too, and they were very successful at passing a safe harbor law. Wisconsin is in the process of passing a safe harbor law, it's still in session, and they have a very broad definition, by any means or instrumentalities. Massachusetts, they are in the process of passing a safe harbor law. The purpose or reasonably foreseeable effect of which is to encourage the reliance of another person upon an individual's knowledge or skill. And you can imagine this could apply to grandmothers giving chicken soup. I mean, the breadth of these laws is amazing. And we are trying to say, you didn't really mean everybody in the whole world. We have to get this into perspective. There are many groups that work to go try and get permission from the government to do what they do, like the dietitians. They're not doctors, but they want to be licensed to do what they do. The massage therapy people, they're not licensed, but they want to do what they want to do without getting criminally charged. So many groups go and get licensed. And the state, many states have laws that say that you can't get a license if you're not causing harm to the public. So they have to kind of prove that they're dangerous if they're not licensed. And so there's a group called naturopathic medical doctors, that want to do natural health, and they also want to do some medical procedures. And so they have been getting licensed, and we have watched these bills very carefully because they put a definition of naturopathic medicine into their laws, and then they put a criminal charge for practicing naturopathic medicine, just like the medical licensing bills. So here's the definition in Maryland of naturopathic medicine: prevention, diagnosis, treatment of human health conditions, injuries, only patient education, and naturopathic therapies. The practice of material sciences of healing, including nutrition, phytotherapy, treatment by natural substances. So this is a broad definition, which is good for them. But when you put a criminal charge on it, it's not good for the other people. So in this state, this definition is law now, and here is a felony charge for people that are not licensed naturopathic doctors to practice naturopathy in the state of Maryland, which we feel is extremely sad, and we would like that to be amended so that the traditional naturopaths and all of the homeopaths and everyone could practice legally in Maryland. Kansas, they have a law, and I've found this in 2 other states now. It has a statement saying, recognizing that the practice of the healing arts is a privilege granted by legislative authority and is not a natural right of individuals. And I just think that is egregious. I don't know how the American people ever brought this into a statute, but I hope that this is overturned someday in Kansas and anywhere else that language is, because I believe, and many of the people in the world believe, that healing is a natural right of individuals. So our safe harbor practitioner exemption laws are the freedom solution that we as an organization support. So we supported the group in Maine. The Right to Practice Complementary and Alternative Health Care Act passed this past year. And it was interesting. Sometimes it takes like years to pass a bill into law, and sometimes it's very quick. And Maine, I think, was the quickest. They had a group of homeopaths. They wanted to set up a clinic. Somebody told them that it was against the law to practice medicine. They researched it and decided to pass a law. And they got people around them, and they called us, and we mentored them every week for the spring. And they passed their bill by the end of the session. It was just wonderful. They worked really hard, and we're really proud of them. Senator David Miramont was their senator that took the bill forward. Nevada Wellness Services, they passed their bill, and Nevada is one of the only 3 states that have mandatory licensing of medical doctors for homeopathy. So even though Nevada Wellness Services passed, they would not include homeopathy in their unlicensed practitioner law, and we're hoping that changes someday soon. New Mexico has a great complementary and alternative healthcare services bill now. Win Werner and his teams there were very successful at getting this put forward, and they included practices by curanderos, salvadoras. All of their indigenous healers are also in their statute, and this is a good model legislation in New Mexico. So the ones that are in session right now that we're supporting groups, when a group wants to go forward, we don't have chapters in the different states. We just are responding to groups coming forward that support things that we also support and that want our guidance. So a group came forward in Massachusetts, Massachusetts Action Network, and they have put a bill forward. They have sponsors in the House and the Senate. And right now, they've been through joint committees, so they are on the way to the Senate floor. And then the coronavirus happened, and so legislation is very limited in Massachusetts right now. But they are hoping that after the election and they go back into session, that they will get this bill to the Senate floor and then passed over to the House floor before the end of session, December 31st. So they're working very hard to get visibility on this bill, so if you can help them, please do. And then Wisconsin, they're also in session and on the way to the Senate floor, and they have already been through the House. They've passed the House floor, they've passed the Senate committees, and they are on the way to the Senate floor for their last and final round. And they are also hoping that when Wisconsin brings the session back in for a special session after the election, that this bill will begin to move again and pass before the end of session. So give them your support if you're in Wisconsin. So what our organization has to offer, we have two organizations, one's for lobbying and one's for education. And that lobbying organization is National Health Freedom Action. We have myself and another attorney, and we really work pretty much full-time guiding groups from the various states in how to protect their health freedoms. And most of our work is on key issues like safe harbor practitioner laws, the right to get the treatments that you want, the right to decline toxic treatments like vaccines, and parental rights. So we work on a lot of different issues and are in touch with a lot of other leaders in other issues like the GMO labeling, the organic consumer issues, the 5G issues, the vaccine freedom issues. So we're supportive of a lot of issues, but when a group comes forward and asks for our help, we decide, is this a priority, and what do you need from us? We do conference calls with groups, sometimes 3 times a year and sometimes every single week or twice a week. We travel and we give presentations. We have done a lot of drafting of laws. We've done a lot of legal research. We testify at hearings, and we really try and guide strategically groups so that they are successful at passing the laws that they want to pass. Here is the Action website, where it's one of the pages on our website. If you go to the National Health Freedom Action, you'll find a button that says Action Alerts, and then you'll see all the different actions that we do. And say that we're working with a group, Massachusetts, and they decide that they want us to support their bill. We set up an action alert where we draft a sample letter that consumers can look at, and we tell why the bill is, we support it or oppose it. And then you can either put in your zip code and send that letter immediately to your legislators or to the committee chairs or whoever it's targeting, or you can write your own letter and send it immediately to them. And it's a powerful tool for us to get legislators to understand that there is something that consumers are concerned about. So that's our biggest tool, other than really teaching people that they need to be at the Capitol. They need to develop relationships with legislators, and they need to really understand their issues so they can articulate it quickly when they meet with legislators. So here are the safe harbor health freedom states so far. and Maine was the last one. Oklahoma and Idaho were historically had language in their statutes that was really partially covering people when they wanted to practice without a license. And then Arizona is limited to only the unlicensed homeopaths. And yeah, I think the rest of them are very broad. And here's my handmade map so that I can track things around the country. And if you're green, you've already passed a law. If you're blue, you have introduced a law that we have supported and probably drafted most of them. If you're pink, you're mobilizing. And if you're white, we do not have a direct group that we're in touch with there right now. So the biggest thing that we try to encourage is for people to be in relationship with legislators. That's how the process works. Legislators are lawmakers, and if you don't show up, then you don't get to play the game. So here's a group of Wisconsin leaders at the Capitol when we were meeting with legislators with them, and our staff attorney and I were both there. Here's the Massachusetts leaders at the Capitol getting familiar with their legislators, and they even got a private tour that day when they went. Here's the Maine homeopaths, and they set up a table in the rotunda on their day at the Capitol and taught people about their bill and what homeopathy was. And here's a picture of a lobbyist. We really encourage people and groups, if they have the funds, to have a lobbyist work with them. And on the right is Jim Jenks from Nevada, and on the left is their lobbyist, Ms. Miller. And they did a great job as a team at the Nevada Capitol passing their bill. So like I said, our involvement is pretty broad. Practitioner rights, vaccine exemption rights, GMO labeling, geoengineering, electromagnetic frequency, glyphosates, regenerative projects. We want to support these people who are working on these issues and many more. And how extensive we get involved depends on the group that we're working with. So let's move to the federal issues just for a moment. The state issues that we've worked on are really the most involved we are on state issues are the practitioner exemption laws and the protection of parents to make decisions for their children regarding vaccines in school. And now we have also joined in the support of employees to decline vaccines if they're mandated. And so we're very, very active in that. In federal issues, we do not have a lobbyist at the federal Capitol, but we enter informal comments to the FDA and many of the agencies. I'm going to teach you about a few of the issues that are happening federally that we are involved with commenting on. So some of the federal issues are the dietary supplements, health claims, homeopathic remedies, whether they're available, the GMO labeling we were supportive of, vaccine mandates state by state, that is a state issue. Geoengineering, we're learning more about the regulations, and the electromagnetic frequencies were really, trying to understand how people can impact their city, their county, and their state regarding the towers that are going up. So first of all, the main initial issue that we got involved with was dietary supplements and drugs. Here's the definition of drug. And if you'll notice, Part B and C are just like the definition of medicine on the state level. Articles intended to use for the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease in man or other animals. If you have an article intended for mitigation, treatment, or prevention of a disease, it becomes a drug legally just by its definition. and also articles intended to affect the structure or function of the body. It became a drug just by definition. And so you'll notice in Part C, there's this little part that says other than food. So we're like, oh, well, we don't really mean food, do we? So that other than food, that was put in the law in 1994 by all of the consumers that wanted to protect food from the definition of the word drug. And it was called the Dietary Supplement Act, the 1994 Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, DSHEA. And those three little words changed the world and protected food. Now, they also made a definition of dietary supplement, and they said they're foods. That means a vitamin, a mineral, an herb or other botanical, and amino acid. These are all foods, and they're regulated as foods instead of drugs. So that was a really big win, and it shifted the burden of proof. For a drug, you have to prove it's safe before you get it on the market. For a food, it's assumed safe, and the government has to prove that it's harmful before it's taken off the market. And for herbalists, this was a very, very big win. Herbs are regulated now as foods. The burden of proof is on the government. So, generally regarded as safe unless proven otherwise is the big win from 1994 Dietary Supplement Act. However, homeopathic remedies, they were not in that list. Why? How are homeopathic products regulated? They're regulated as drugs because you'll remember the definition of drug had Part A, articles recognized in the official United States Pharmacopoeia or official homeopathic pharmacopoeia of the United States. So homeopathic remedies were put in the definition of drugs specifically by a senator who was a homeopath in the early 1900s, and they have stayed there. So they don't have the protection of the Dietary Supplement Act for generally regarded as safe. So then there are a lot of drugs that are on the market that are over-the-counter drugs, and they're not approved, and the FDA is going through all of these drugs to see which ones are safe, etc. However, homeopathic remedies, the FDA views them as unapproved drugs. So this is what the FDA has to say on their website. Under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, homeopathic products are subject to the same requirements related to approval, adulteration, and misbranding as other drug products. There are currently no homeopathic products approved by the FDA. So that's really a hard position to be in when they're not considered generally regarded as safe. However, the FDA knew on some level, and they were not dangerous, so they gave them an exemption they're not being reviewed, and they set up a guidance document in 1988. And a guidance document is a document, it's not a law and it's not a rule, it's a document where an agency says, you know, if you do these things, we'll be okay with it. Even though the law is an issue, we don't know what to do. So they made a guidance policy document called Conditions Under Which Homeopathic Drugs May Be Marketed, and they worked with the manufacturing industry of homeopathy to get this passed or into the policy guide. But it's not really law, it's just a policy guide that can be changed by the agency at any time. And in 1988, this was adopted. And then in 2017, the FDA said, you know, I think we want to repeal this 1988 400 policy document and go back to our enforcing it homeopathic remedies as drugs and do risk assessments on them. So they put out a draft new guidance document called Drug Products Labeled as Homeopathic Guidance for FDA Staff and Industry. And it's just a horrible document in terms of they still want to treat homeopathic remedies as drugs and take them off the market whenever they deem that they want. So a lot of comments went into the FDA over this. And what our organization did was, well, first of all, just tell you what happened. After all the comments came in, the FDA went, oh, okay, well, we'll put out a new second draft guidance taking into consideration your comments. But we are going to repeal 400-400. So they repealed 400-400. They put out a second draft guidance, which was, in our opinion, probably worse than the first one. And now there are no new final revised guidance documents available. So homeopathic remedies are very vulnerable right now. Our organization in this situation wanted to go back to that definition of drug and say, wait a minute, we want, even if they're drugs, we want them to be generally regarded as safe. We want the law to be changed so that the FDA can't make guidance documents or rules relating to that definition. So we drafted a federal law, and circulated it with the homeopathic community to see if they would consider getting behind changing the law, which would be a really big thing to do, but that's what we had to offer the community as our model draft. So that's where things stand. And a lot of people ask us, is FDA going to remove homeopathic products from the market? And this was on their website that I found last week. FDA's top concern is patient safety. When the draft guidance is finalized, it will specify the categories of products the agency intends to prioritize for enforcement. In the interim, before the draft guidance is finalized, FDA intends to apply its general approach to prioritizing risk-based regulatory and enforcement actions. So that's where homeopathic remedies are at. So hopefully the law will be changed, just like the dietary supplement law really helped us out. So who's representing you during all of these battles or evolutions in the law that we have in our country? I say everyone needs to be at the table if they care about these issues, because these issues, a lot of these rights and issues were taken away while we weren't watching. And now we're realizing that the industry actually took away a lot of options for us and put the laws into like a paradigm of conventional medicine, and we need to free up everything. So our organization, National Health Freedom Action, is our lobbying organization, and we support groups that are working on health freedom issues. National Health Freedom Coalition is our educational organization, and we try to educate people like I am today about what is going on in the country on health freedom. One of the projects of our educational organization is what we call the U.S. Health Freedom Congress, and it has voting members. And we have invited many of the leaders of different organizations to come together to discuss health freedom in general. Our view over the last 20 years was that rather than working in silos for, vaccines or practitioner laws or GMOs or 5G, that all of these things are impacting our health and our freedoms. And we needed to know each other, to share information with each other, to talk to each other about these issues. And this U.S. Health Freedom did pass resolutions, which are on our website, and adopted different resolutions on different health freedom issues. Here is a picture of all of us on our last Congress, June 10th, 2018. And these are tremendous leaders in our country working on so many levels to protect your health freedom. And many heroes were there as well, sharing their stories of health freedom experiences. And we gave awards and had keynote speakers. And all of that information is on the website for the Health Freedom Congress. So to wrap up my presentation today, I want to share with you the principles of health freedom that the Congress adopted that I had been working on for many years, so that you can have a sense of what we think is important for health freedom in general when we're passing laws. Number one, there's 8 of them. Number one is the fundamental right of self-determination of individuals to be let alone to survive on their own terms and in their own manner. And this is a constitutional inalienable right that has been protected for many years in our country. And it's been challenged whether someone can be let alone to do what they want and can't be forced into doing something with their body. So if somebody wants to decline something, they can decline something for their body because it is their body. 2, the freedom to perceive and to act as one wishes to secure health. So you can take actions also to protect your own health. 3, the freedom to access. And this is one that I have been really trying to articulate over the last 20 years, because when you eliminate 9 out of the 10 options in a paradigm, a dominant paradigm, you really take freedom away. And I think that you always have to have the freedom to access who you want, that options cannot be shut down. Number 4 is the responsibility to do no harm. And of course, that's the Hippocratic Oath. The balancing of dominant conventional medicine on do no harm is it the least restrictive thing you can do to a person's body in order to move them towards health. A doctor has to do harmful things in order to get to the goal that they want for a person's survival sometimes. But in general, if there are ways to bring a person back into balance, it should be considered and not always done the harmful route. Number 5, the responsibility to respectfully tolerate diverse options, healing, and survival choices. There's a broad bias in our culture now towards the pharmaceutical model, and there's a lot of pain in the healing consumers when they are not respected if they want to choose something different than the conventional model. So I think these diverse options need to be respected. Principle number 6 is the duty of corporations to be trustworthy entities. And it's just so hard now that corporations have so much power. So we put special principles on them. And principle 7 is about these special principles for corporations and their duties. So there's 5 duties of corporations: honor and preserve the sovereign nature of individuals and the United States, honor and preserve financial and cultural diversity, avoid creating monopolies, avoid dominant control of natural resources. And number 5 is my most important one, in my opinion. It is avoid promotion of products that would encourage unlimited dependence on corporations, or that would discourage, prohibit, or otherwise negatively impact the ability or will of humans and local human communities to survive and prosper without the corporations or institutions. This dependency on the corporations and the healing modalities that are brought forth, and teaching people that they can't really survive without them. It is true with technology, with your iPhone, there are so many ways that corporations and institutions are creating dependencies that may not be the best for our world. And the last one is the duty of government to protect health freedoms and to make no law or public policy abridging health freedom or its fundamental principles. And I think that when we teach people and help them and support them going to the capitals to have relationships with legislators, with lawmakers, so that they actually know what their laws say and what their legislator feels about those laws and why they're on the books, is so important. And we want to hold the government responsible for the laws that are on the books. And that is where, if they don't hear from us and they only hear from the corporate entities with lobbyists, they will not protect these freedoms. So laws and customs must carefully be reviewed, revised, and even repealed if necessary, and new laws created to reflect the development, evolution, and spiritual maturization of a people. So I love laws, but they are swords that can pierce into your freedoms and bring you to where you want to go if they're done correctly. So you need to be, and we all need to be, in the freedom conversation, because that's what freedom is about, because we're always changing, we're always evolving. And laws, if they're a part of us and are reflecting who we want to become, they need to reflect us. So I encourage you to be in the freedom conversation. And here are our two organizations, National Health Freedom Coalition and National Health Freedom Action. And if you could go to our website and subscribe, that'd be great. We'd love to support all of your efforts to protect your freedoms. And thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate being able to be with you virtually, and I hope that you have a great rest of the Expo. Thank you so much.